Good, beautiful morning, everybody. Silas back today, and we're off on another adventure made from scratch. If you've been staying up with this series, you know we're getting closer and closer to the end of crushing out here. There's roughly 130 to 140 cars left out here that I want to crush. It's mostly all the cars in this area right here. We've gotten rid of all the big crush piles of cars. If you've missed all that, you'll definitely want to go back and check that out. But I've got all these rows of cars, and it goes way off that direction back there. Bunches of stuff out here still, but they're not stacked up, so it'll look like I'm making more progress fairly quickly. But anyway, probably not going to do any crushing today. I'll probably do that later in the week. I'm not sure how long this video will be. This may be several days put together into one. It may just be one day. I don't know. We'll just kind of see how it goes. But before we get started on these cars, I did buy a bunch of antique trucks over the weekend. A couple of them are pretty sweet, so let's go check those out. First up on the list, got an old, roughly 51 or so GMC 5-window. I did not know this was a 5-window. I bought it. What the deal was is I had a guy, he had 6 vehicles. Well, he didn't have them. He knew somebody that had them, and they just wanted them off the farm. And they said, what do you get for them? So I made an offer, didn't hear back for, oh, check that out. World War II. I mean, that's not what it actually stands for, but that's kind of neat. Somebody might want that tag. But anyway, I made an offer, didn't hear back, so I thought, well, they must not have liked my offer. And I said, but it is what it is. If I can't make money, I don't want to mess with them. And then about 2 weeks later or so, they messaged me back and they said, yeah, we'll go ahead and take your offer. So I got them all bought. I had a guy haul them all for me. This one doesn't look too bad, really. I'm looking at it. I don't see a whole lot of rust in it. It's got a lot of surface rust. All the paint's gone, but there's some dents in the top of the cab, but it's not all rotted out. Looks like this one was a kind of a red color at one point. Yeah, it's got a little bit of rust up in there, but man, that's really actually a pretty solid cab. So yeah, that's definitely going to be a good one there, being a 5-window like that. So that's a good deal. But anyway, got them all hauled in. This is just a couple of them here. The cab over Ford over there came from a different place. But check out the grill on this 57 GMC. All the chrome. It's even got the chrome bumper on it. Pretty sweet truck. I actually have a guy here today to pick up a cab off of a 58 GMC. And if he has room, he might be interested in this one as well. Yeah, a little bit of rust on the roof, but once again, not too bad. A little bit of rust in it, but still a very buildable truck. I'm digging the old military bed on the back of it. That's kind of sweet. Might have a use for that. Probably not, but I have a lot of ideas in my head. I never get any of them done, but it's good to have ideas. In this cab over here, I've got to send pictures to a guy of this thing. It's got a little bit more rust than what I thought it did. I didn't realize I had that rust there. The inside's not too bad. So yeah, just the cab corners. It's still a very buildable truck. Old C700. If he buys it, he will not want the bed off of it. I'll have to pull that off. I just noticed the GMC has a WW2 tag on the front of it as well. So I think somebody that's just into World War II stuff will buy both of those tags. Well, I got really good news and kind of bad news. The bad news is, I'll do that first, is the head is gone off of this engine, and it is stuck, obviously, because the head is gone. The cylinders have filled up with whatever over the years, rat nest. So that's kind of a bummer. But the good news is that this is a 302. That is a very desirable engine, very valuable engine if it wasn't all taken apart like that. But even in this condition here, just for parts, there's probably still some value to it. So yeah, this GMC here was definitely a good buy. They were all good buys. I mean, I didn't price them cheap, but I didn't price them high either. Next up on the list, we got this old 51 Ford tanker truck. This isn't nearly as big as that other tanker truck I had, but this is kind of cool. What is that? That doesn't say the model. Oh, there it is. Ralph and Brody. Huh. It's a neat meter, though. I'll save that for sure. Let's see what the inside looks like. Dash looks pretty solid in it still. I think it's a 51. It might be a 52. I always get confused on them. It's definitely one of those two, though. But pretty solid truck once again. I'll have to clean it out and check the floors a little bit better. You tell me, is this a 51 or a 52? I can't always tell. I know you can tell by the chrome strips that are on them which one it is. Now the front fender on this is kind of mangled, and it's a big truck front clip, so I'll probably go ahead and cut the nose off of this one and sell just the cab. I have a lot of people ask me why people don't ever want the big truck front clips, and it's because they have gigantic wheel well openings. So unless you're planning on running big wheels on whatever you're building, you don't want these front clips. Now the cabs are the same as a half ton. So what people do is they buy these farm truck cabs because they're higher off the ground, they're never as rusty, and they take those and they put them together with a half ton or a 3/4 ton front clip, and then it looks like a pickup. I'll try to find a home for the tank on this as well, but if I don't find a home for it, I'll probably just go ahead and knock all the sheet metal off, probably pull the motor off. It's got a V8, and then crush the rest of it. Next up on the list, now this one took me a little bit to figure out exactly what it was. Now obviously it's a Dodge, I knew that, but I couldn't figure out what year it was because things weren't going together on it. And what it is it's a 1965 body. They used this body style until 1966, I believe, on the panel trucks, whereas the other trucks went to the swept-line body style. But anyway, this is a 65 truck, and it's sitting on a 59 W100 chassis. I did not realize the W100s used 8-lug axles, but they did. The W200s use 6-lug axles. So I always thought the 8-lug axles automatically meant that it was a 200, but that is not true on the Power Wagons. The body on this is pretty solid. It does have a little bit of rust in it, and somebody's chopped it up a little bit. So I mean, it's going to need some repair, but the floors are all still in it. This driver's fender's toast. Passenger fender's good. It's got a good hood. It's got the driver's door. The issue with this truck is that the serial number is gone, and that's the only place on this body that had a serial number. Now there's probably a serial number on the frame somewhere, and you could probably title the frame, but unfortunately there's no serial number for the body. So if you didn't want this chassis, the body's pretty much useless, unless you had one that was really rough, and then you could put the two together and make one that was good if the other one had a serial number. So that's always an option as well. If push comes to shove, what I'll do is I'll bolt the front clip back together, cut it off for wall art, cut the back of the panel off for art, and then I'll sell the chassis out of it to somebody that wants a Power Wagon chassis. Here's the cab that they're coming to pick up today, or that they came to pick up today. It'd be good to get it out of here. This truck also had a 348 in it. They're coming to pick that up on Friday, I believe. Hopefully this week. I say hopefully. I don't know for sure if it'll happen. Kind of depends on how everything goes, but I want to get all of these cleared out because I have a guy supposed to come out sometime and take all of these trees out around this building, clean it up a little bit, but he can't do that until I get rid of all this stuff. Here's one of the next vehicles that came in. Now this is probably the coolest vehicle of the batch I bought over the weekend, but it's also probably the least valuable, unfortunately. This is a Hillman Minx, somewhere in the early 50s. I don't know what year it is for sure. Little tiny car. It's got the speedometer all the way over here on this side because it was probably supposed to be a right-hand drive car, and they just moved the steering column over there for the American buyers. Got the little hump trunk on the back of it. Last tagged in 1954, so either somebody put that tag on there and that's what year this car is, or else it wasn't on the road for very long, because this would be out of the early 50s. The odometer says, I think, 6,600 miles, so that might be the original tag, or at least close to the original tag. There may be no miles on this car hardly, but it's so rough from sitting out in the field forever that it just doesn't have a whole lot of value. Now it is definitely worth more than crush. I will not crush this car. Somebody will probably want it, and worst case scenario, that trunk would make a really cool piece of furniture, so we can always cut it up later if we need to, but hopefully it doesn't come to that. Hopefully I can find a home for it. And last but not least, we have a 1956, I think, Ford. This could be a 55. I always get confused on 55 and 56, which ones are which, but this car here is just an old four-door. It's pretty rusty, so this one here is definitely going to get cut up for art. Put a new taillight in it on this side. That'll make a really cool couch or something. And then of course the nose on this thing is also pretty sweet. Some definite wall art there, and then it's got a lot of good parts on it, a lot of good dash parts. It's got the radio, the clock, the temperature controls, the gauges, all that good stuff. It's got a pretty cool old Unity spotlight on it, or at least I think it's a Unity. We'll check it out and see. Yeah, it's a Unity, but it's the kind that is kind of grafted into the car, and then it's got the mirror on the back side, and it's all there. Looks like the plastic bakelite stuff's all broken and gone. So definitely we will repurpose this car here. And that concludes my tour. So now let's get to work. I just tinkered around the yard all afternoon, processed some cars. I didn't do anything great or fantastic. I had a bunch of customers come out, and so I had to buy stuff from them. Didn't get a whole lot done. But now I am headed out to look at some old trucks. Now, he already sent me pictures of them. I already made a price on them. I made an agreement on them. So I'm going out to get one of those now, and I'll probably go ahead and go back and get another one here in a little bit. I also had one other car come in today. You probably saw it on the time lapse. I have not showed you guys that car yet. It's that old Fraser. Very cool car, but I was just so busy I never had a chance. But I will definitely show that to you in this video here in just a little bit. We made it. I guess the trucks were out in the field. Bunch of old barns up here. Here's the first one, a 1953 Ford. Unfortunately, both of my camera batteries died, and my other batteries were at home on the charger, so they didn't do me a whole lot of good. 1953. He said this one here was parked in a barn for a long time, and he had it out in his field for a few years. I haven't checked to see if the motor still turns or not, but it's just a Y block, an early Y block. 53 was the first year, I believe. But yeah, unfortunately, I was not able to record loading these trucks, especially the red cab over that you'll see here in a second, because it was quite the challenge to load. But really, this one's not in too bad a condition. It got a little bit of rust in it, but I think somebody will buy this cab for sure. This one here, this thing fought us. This is a 69 Ford. I think it's a C600. I don't think it's a 700. I think it's a 600. The deals are gone, but it's got the smaller wheels on it, so I'm pretty sure it might even be a 500. But I think it's a 600. But anyway, the steering is disconnected in this thing. And so getting this on Brandon's trailer was quite the challenge. See, it stripped out down in the gearbox. And so we couldn't steer it. And when we started winching it, the wheels went all sideways. And it was just an absolute nightmare. We had to stick a big bar in them and try to pry them and hook the cable on them a couple times and pull them straight. And we got it loaded. The sheet metal on this one here is really, really nice. Once again, I have a title. The only issue with this one is right here. It's been smashed really hard. So it's got a big old dent in it. But there's very, very little rust, just a little bit right here. The rest of it's very solid. Unfortunately, there's just not a whole lot of value to these trucks. I haven't tried to sell the front off of one of these trucks yet, though. So I'm thinking if a guy took the door off and just cut it right across the roof, right where the lights are up on top, and then cut the floor across there, that'd make a really cool piece right there. I don't know. But this in here is probably not the one to cut up. Somebody, if they did want one of these cabs, this would probably be the one to do. I'm not sure what engine's in this. Being a 69, it's probably a 390 or a 360. It might even be a 6-cylinder. I guess we can check it and find out. Okay, this is a 391 is what this is. This is not an FE. This is an FT. The difference between an FE and an FT is FE was like the 360, 390, 352, 410, 428, stuff like that. FT was the 330, the 361, the 391, ones like that. And so this here is a little bit different than a 390. It's got different heads on it. And I think, I could be wrong on this, but I think the blocks are basically the same. I know the core buyers that used to buy all my FE engines, they would buy these just for the block. They didn't pay as much for them, and all they wanted was the block. You could keep the heads, they didn't care. These are an engine here that really aren't that sought after because they're really not any better than an FE, and they're harder to get parts for, they're harder to build. However, whenever somebody does have one and they want to find parts for it or something like that, they are nigh impossible to find. So we'll hang on to it for now, and I'll tell people I have it if anybody's looking for one. And if I sell the cab in the future at some point in time and the engine's still here, then I'll probably just go ahead and scrap it. But look at the floors in this thing. This thing's really in good condition. Somebody really needs to take this cab and put it on something different. Next up is the car I told you about that came in. It's a 1949 Fraser. You guys saw it unloaded in time lapse, I believe. But check this car out on the inside. It does have some rust in the floors and in the rocker panels around the bottom. That's unfortunate, but look at the inside of this car. Still has the glove box in it. The dash looks like new in it. Real nice inside. Still has the headliner in it. The seats are all here. Now, I'm sure they'd need recovered. The second you sat on these, they'd probably rip. But they're here and available to recover. They're not just rotted to nothing like a lot of them are. All the parts are in this car. All the armrests are still in it. A bunch of books about the car. Here's a brand new original muffler. It's the old style. It's round and long and skinny. All the chrome, the grill's in here. Everything's in here for this car. It's a complete car. Guy parked it in the garage in 1987. Tore it apart, took the front clip off of it, started taking the chrome off of it, was going to restore it and repaint it, and then he just never got around to it. And it's been sitting for all these years. He's been deceased for a while now. And so a guy that I know talked to his wife, or his widow, and she decided to sell it. Oh, this trunk lid is heavy. But yeah, here's all the engine parts off of it. Unfortunately, the engine is stuck, but it was stored inside, so I don't know how bad it's stuck. Guy might be able to free it up with a little bit of a mystery oil or something like that. It's got all brand new shocks in the trunk for it. Bunches of good stuff here. I wish it was something other than a Fraser. I mean, it's kind of cool and unusual. I don't buy Frasers very often. They're actually really rare. But unfortunately, there's just not a whole lot of following for these. So I don't know that there's a whole lot of value here. I do have a title for it. If somebody was interested in this car, I would probably let it go for, I don't know, probably around $1,300 or so. And if somebody said I'll be there tomorrow with cash, I'd probably even take less than that. But if I'm going to have to store it for 3 months while somebody figures out how they're going to come pick it up, then yeah, I'm going to want full price. And if it doesn't sell, it does have a really cool looking back end on it. That'll make a cool couch. I can bolt the front clip back together, chop it off for a wall hanger, and then I can just sell parts off the rest of it and crush what's left over. I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but I do have title for this cab. I have titles for all 3 trucks I bought yesterday. If somebody was wanting a cab like this, I would sell the cab and the bumper for probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $12.5. And if somebody wanted the engine with it and all that, I would even cut the frame and include the engine in that price. And last but not least, we have this old Viking up here. I think this is a 58 or 59 now. I can't remember what year it was, but kind of rough. It's got a lot of rust in it. Cab's pretty rough. I have a guy actually wanting a bunch of parts off of one of these cabs, and so he just wants to buy a whole cab, and I think this is going to be the cab for him. And then I can go ahead and cut the nose off for a wall hanger. It's kind of a shame because it is all here and I do have a title for it, so I don't know, I might hang on to this cab, try to find somebody interested in fixing it. So I don't know, I'll think more about that later. It does have a 235 in it that still turns, so that'll be a decent piece. But as you can see, it is very rough. It's got a lot of rust in it. Up in here, the whole cab corner's rotted out, so really having a title for this one doesn't do a whole lot of good. I did not unload it yesterday. It took so long to get that C600 loaded up that I was running way far behind on my schedule, so I had to hustle home because I had to edit in a video last night because I had to release today, and so I just didn't have time to unload this. I just kicked the trailer off. We did get a couple other old cars in lately. I haven't shown you guys yet. I think this is a 49 or 50 Mercury. I forget what year it is. It's pretty stripped out. There's not a whole lot left here. It does have a few parts. I have a guy wanting to buy the rear end out of it, I believe, and I think the front suspension or something like that. He's got one of these that all the suspension is all gone. It does have a what's left of a trunk lid on it. It's kind of rusty, but it is there. I haven't gotten to crush one of these Mercs like this for, man, a long time. I did crush one, but it's been probably 20 years ago last time I crushed one of these. So I think this would make a really cool crushing video because it's not every day you get to see one of these old Mercs get crushed. Definitely not restorable, definitely not savable. And like I say, most of the remaining parts that are left on this thing will be gone before I crush it. Well, the deer are sure liking my spot I cleaned out. All these cars used to be in here and now it's all wide open. There's deer tracks everywhere. Here's another one that just came in. This is a 66, I think, Impala. Not much left here. It's pretty stripped out as well. This was a parts car for a car he was restoring, so he took pretty much everything that was good off of it. You guys see this wheel on the front of it? He actually welded a piece of iron to what's left of the A-arms and just put that wheel on there so he could roll it around. But the rear end has been taken apart and it's like a chia pet inside. It's just junk. There's a few pieces of trim on it, but even those are pretty beat up. You can see it's all pretty well cut up. The dash is all stripped out. It does have factory AC and a couple of the vents are inside it still, so I'll probably save those. But beyond that, probably not going to save anything else on this car. And then I got this old Plymouth or Dodge or whatever this is here. This thing is really stripped out as well. It's got some gauges in it, but they're just aftermarket gauges. They're not original. So I really don't see anything on this car that's worth saving. Pretty much just junk. I guess it's a Plymouth. I see the body tag right there. I'll probably pull those tags off of there, but that's probably about it. And then I don't think I ever showed you guys this truck. I think you guys saw me unload it, but then I never showed it to you again. This is a 1940, I think, Chevy. Yeah, 1940 Chevy. It's not in too terrible condition. It does have some rust in it down here, but I mean, it's a 1940, so some rust is expected. A little bit up there from a rat nest. But overall, it's pretty nice. I mean, for what it is, an old farm truck sitting out in the field. I think it's a very buildable truck, so hopefully I can find a home for that one. This is turning into a show and tell, but I just realized I never showed you guys this one either. This is another one. It came from the same place as that GMC cab that we took off yesterday and what was that other little car, that a Hillman. It came from the same property as those. It's a 5-window Dodge, but unfortunately these pilot houses just don't have a whole lot of value. I haven't sold one of these in a long time, so I'll probably just cut it up for art. It's pretty rough anyway, and I think the back of this cab would make a cool headboard or sign or something. And then of course it's got the nose on it that I can cut off. It's got the Dodge Ram up on top of it. Just got to put a headlight back in it. For the sake of time though, I'm probably just going to go ahead and take it maybe later today and take this fuel tank off and then just cut the frame right there. That way I could scrap the back half of it, and then I could take the front cab of it and stash it way out back with all the other cabs. This video really turned into a show and tell. I didn't know what it was going to be when I started. I thought it was going to be another crushing video, but I guess it's nice to take it nice and slow for a while. I know there wasn't a whole lot of action in this one, but you guys did get to see a lot of neat cars, and I bought all of these cars in the last 5 days. So that's how many old cars I get. And so people are always like, well, you should save everything until you find a buyer for it. Well, I can't save everything because I've crushed almost 400 cars out of here now. I have to look down. I think it's 340, 350, something like that. And I can barely tell because it's already filling up almost as fast as I emptied it out. So I can't save it all. I'll save as much as possible. If you see something you want, my email is always in the description of these videos. I don't have everything listed. I don't have a website or anything like that for the old cars at this time. Hopefully in the future I'll be able to do that. But right now, just send me a screenshot or describe the vehicle that you want at buy.amfs@gmail.com. The link is in the description of this video. Please do not email one of the other emails. Please do not message me on my merch website. None of that stuff, because if you do that, it just makes it really complicated when I'm trying to figure out who was asking about what and where they asked about it. So if you want to buy something, you have to email me at the buy.amfs, or you can message me on Instagram. Those are the two options you have if you want to buy something from me. Always keep in mind that my videos are a little bit behind, and so if you see something, it may not be available anymore. It may have already sold. I feel like this is a good stopping point for this video because I don't feel like anything else I'm going to be doing today will have anything to do with what else we did in this video. So I'll let y'all go. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day, and remember to get out there and find an adventure. We'll see you on the next one.